people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. A recent addition to the Kim Clavel versus Naomi Reyes fight set to go down later on this month, the week after next. Unbeaten up-and-comer from Canada, Alexis Kubicki will be returning to action, attempting to advance to a professional record of 7-0 opposite the ring Linda Contreras.
Alexis Kubicki, who sports a professional record of 6 wins with no losses, no draws, no recorded knockouts, not yet. She's only 19 years old.
But you notice almost immediately with Alexis that this is a young fighter, a very young fighter that has a very high ceiling. And if this is what she's looking like now at only 6-0, 19 years old, how's she gonna look at 10-0, 15-0, 20-0?
Be a fucking monster by then.
She'll be sharing the ring with Linda Contreras, journeywoman who sports a professional record of 2 wins with 3 losses, 2 draws.
She's got an upside-down record. This is not a step up from the last girl that Alexis Kubicki fought, but at only 6-0.
Bring-along fights, developmental fights, and learning fights are the first order of the day to allow the fighter to develop their instincts and muscle memory, getting accustomed to being under those hot lights.
Fighting in those 4-rounders, those 6-rounders, those 8-rounders, and those subsequent 10-rounders.
A fighter, especially a young one like Alexis, they need time to develop, and because she has the luxury of time, I suggest that they use it. Now, this is an Yvon Michel promotion. As we all know, Yvon Michel, he promotes Kim Clavel.
It's one of his fighters. I wonder if Alexis making an appearance on the undercard of this fight, I wonder if that heralds a contractual situation between Alexis and Yvon Michel.
Alexis, who campaigns in the women's flyweight division, flyweight.
It's where Marlena Esparza reigns as that division's unified WBA and WBC champion. Mexico's own Arely Mucino, she's got the IBF, and Gabriela Alanis, she's got the WBO.
Word round the campfire seems to be that the contest of champions at flyweight involving Marlena Esparza and Argentina's Gabriela Alanis, that's set to be going down very soon on the undercard of William Zepeda's next fight, a Golden Boy promotion show. If you ask me, Marlena Esparza versus Gabriela Alanis would arguably be the best fight on the whole goddamn card. Best fight on the whole goddamn show.
Women's flyweight unification match, flyweight, that's where Alexis Kubicki campaigns, and these are the champions that she may lock horns with in the distant future.
I say distant because she's only 19 years old and she only has 6 professional fights. I think she's a ways out from challenging for an alphabet title, challenging one of these far more experienced champions like Marlene or Gabriela.
Could be some time from now.
In truth, by the time that Alexis is ready to fight for an alphabet title, the pecking order, landscape, may be entirely different. By that time, who knows? Marlena Esparza may have left the women's flyweight division. Gabriela Alanis as well, maybe Arely Mucino. You never know.
By the time that Alexis is ready to fight for a title, maybe the current champions move up to super flyweight.
By that time, and the light flyweights will have moved up to flyweight. Flyweight, where Alexis campaigns. Very young fighter, very high ceiling.
Very active.
Having debuted as a professional in June of last year, she managed to pack in 5 fights. 5 fights last year, and she's already seen action once this year.
She's going to be fighting Linda Contreras in what looks a lot like a learning fight.
I think those fights are a lot more important than the boxing fan realizes.
Yeah.
They see a fighter's talent level, what they can do out there, and they tell themselves that they're ready for bigger fights, not realizing that their bodies themselves. They need to acclimate to these kinds of environments, those 4-rounders, 6-rounders, 8-rounders, 10-rounders, working in high-pressure situations under the hot lights to develop that muscle memory and those instincts.
You want to get enough rounds in the bank to where you develop that ring savvy, that ring IQ, that second nature.
That's what it's all about. That's what it's all for. Even if a fighter does exhibit that high ceiling, in many ways they do need to still acclimate to their environment. I suspect that's what Alexis Kubicki is going to be doing on the undercard of Clavel versus Reyes in a little over a week's time, close to 2. Look for the ring return of Alexis Kubicki after this week. One of Ring IQ's top prospects to watch in the year of 2023. Men's super middleweight news. I'm sure you guys have heard already that Edgar Berlanga is slated to make his Matchroom debut opposite the ring Ironman's own Jason Quigley. That's the same Jason Quigley that Demetrius Andrade fought well over a year ago. I believe that was his final fight.
Under the Matchroom banner for Edgar, it'll be his first.
The Berlanga versus Quigley undercard sees the addition of popular locals Adam Kownacki and Rashad Mati, hometown heroes, set to return to action in the Big Apple as they star on the undercard of undefeated super middleweight sensation Edgar Berlanga's clash with Jason Quigley at the Hulu Theater, Madison Square Garden in New York on Saturday, June 24th, live worldwide on DAZN.
And you see what the strategy is between Albania's Rashad Mati, Poland's Adam Kownacki, and Puerto Rico's own Edgar Berlanga. These are fan favorites and familiar faces in the tri-state area.
That's how they hope to drive ticket sales. That's how they hope to drum up business. And in truth, it is a good strategy. Now, Rashad Mati, he's been with Matchroom for years now. He's been with Matchroom for about as long as I can remember. The addition of Adam Kownacki to this card is what caught me by surprise. I guess this heralds the end of his tenure on PBC.
I mean, if you're a heavyweight, the PBC is the last place you want to go because they can't make any big fights for you, and there are no world titles on that side of the street.
No big names either. Adam Kownacki is eager to get back to his winning ways, and the popular Brooklyn-based Pole does so in 10-round action against Joe Kusumano. Kownacki has history with the famous New York venue as an amateur and a pro, and after a pair of defeats at the hands of Robert Helenius and a reversal in Brooklyn against Ali Demirezin in July, the 34-year-old wants to get back to his lofty position he held prior to those defeats and is targeting a spectacular win over Kusumano to get himself back in the heavyweight mix.
It's a make-or-break fight for Adam.
It's not even that he lost to Robert Helenius 2 times in a fight that he was favored to win, at least the first time out. But it's not even losing to Robert Helenius. It's losing the Ali Demirezin fight.
That was supposed to be an easy one. That was supposed to be a rebound fight.
I am excited to be back at Madison Square Garden, said Kownacki. Madison Square Garden is where I had my first success as a boxer, winning the New York Golden Gloves, and my 5th pro fight where I came out victorious and started my run to become a top 5 heavyweight. Madison Square Garden will once again be the starting point of something special for me as I resurrect my career.
You think after that loss to Ali Demirezin, Al Heyman cut him loose?
There are a lot of outlying factors when it comes to Adam Kownacki's departure from the PBC. You have to figure that with the Fox deal ending and things being tight,
the budget being tight at Showtime,
they don't have an overabundance of opportunities for many fighters, let alone a heavyweight. There are no alphabet titles on the PBC side of things and no big names to put these guys in the ring with.
And for a fighter who's coming off of what, 3 consecutive losses, I think it is.
People at the PBC don't have much use for Adam Kownacki. Enter Matchroom.
Maybe that's a big part of the reason the people at the PBC were willing to part with Adam. They don't have much use for him, and he's coming off of 3 back-to-back losses.
Let him go to Matchroom? That's one less mouth to feed, and for Matchroom, there is an opportunity there. I don't have any illusions about how far Adam can go at this stage in his career, but he can make himself useful.
He can help sell some tickets on this card,
of which there are a lot of local favorites. Rashad Mati, Edgar Berlanga. I mean, you see what they're going for, and I do have a rooting interest in Adam Kownacki because I feel what the PBC did to this guy, it was criminal. He was afforded an opportunity to box Anthony Joshua for 3 of the 4 major alphabet titles back when Jarrell Miller tested positive for all those banned substances.
They were looking for a replacement. They offered to fight to Luis Ortiz. They offered to fight to Adam Kownacki. A multi-million-dollar opportunity and a chance to fight for 3 of the 4 major alphabet titles. I think Anthony would have knocked Adam out.
I do, but at least Adam would have gotten a career-high purse, a multi-million-dollar payday in what would have been the biggest fight of his career on the biggest stage. And I remember
it was in April of 2019.
Keith Connolly, Adam Kownacki's manager, immediately shut down any notion that Adam Kownacki would be available to take on Anthony Joshua on that notice because they already had something planned for him for the midsummer months.
That was in April of 2019.
And I remember thinking to myself, what could the PBC possibly have for Adam Kownacki to do that's bigger than this? What could they possibly have for him to do that would be bigger than making a multi-million-dollar payday boxing for 3 of the 4 major titles opposite the ring of then unbeaten Anthony Joshua? What could they possibly have for this guy to do?
I remember that Keith Connolly declined to comment on who it was Adam would be fighting.
He declined to discuss Kownacki's upcoming opponent, but he made it clear Kownacki would be willing to fight Joshua at some point in the future. The then 30-year-old Adam Kownacki.
Yeah, I remember.
The rumors of Adam Kownacki fighting Anthony Joshua on June 1st are not true, Connolly told BoxingScene.com. Al Heyman and I have made a deal for a fight sometime this summer for Adam to fight on the PBC in New York, where he has a huge fan base. Details of the fight will be released over the next couple of weeks. And you know who he ended up fighting?
Do you know what was so fucking important? That he was too busy to box Anthony Joshua. Do you know what it was?
It was a Chris Arreola fight, FS1. A Chris Arreola fight that took place in early August, whereas all of this
took place months before, in April. In April, Adam Kownacki's name was in the running for a Joshua fight, and in April, his manager and Al Heyman took his name out of the running. You tell me if that's not criminal.
Unless you ain't got no fucking common sense. There's no way he made opposite the ring a journeyman in Chris Arreola what he could have made opposite the ring Anthony Joshua. And yeah, maybe he would have lost, but there wouldn't have been any shame in that.
Would have made a fuck ton of money. You're telling me that boxing Chris Arreola on FS1 was more important than Adam getting to fight for 3 of the 4 major titles. That's what you're telling me?
You're telling me that Al Heyman was looking out for this guy's best interests?
No,
They should have dropped everything to be in that Joshua fight is what they should have done.
But those were different times. Al Heyman would not part with Adam Kownacki so easily because he was a bit of a ticket seller and he was then, at least then, an unbeaten fighter. They had plans for this guy. Robert Helenius ruined those plans.
After the Chris Arreola fight that took place in August of 2019, the following year, in 2020, Robert Helenius dished out Adam Kownacki his first professional loss and his subsequent second in the rematch.
After all the smoke settled with that, they put him in the ring with Ali Demirezin, and Ali Demirezin shocked him. Ali Demirezin beat him.
Call me sentimental, but I'd like to see Adam Kownacki recover from all of this. I wouldn't mind it at all to see that guy get back in the winner's bracket and try his best to turn things around. At Matchroom, I think he can do that.
Al Heyman costed this guy a major opportunity. The opportunity of a lifetime.
Now, Eddie Hearn, in all his wisdom, has given Adam Kownacki a second chance.
I wonder if this wasn't what he had in mind when he decided to give this guy this opportunity.
It's an opportunity for them both. An opportunity for Edgar Berlanga, who still is an unbeaten fighter. This will be his first fight under the Matchroom banner, and he says, I'm excited to be back in my hometown and to perform at the Mecca of boxing once again. I want this night to be a historic night for my fans and for all the people of Puerto Rico and to witness greatness. I feel like I'm reborn again in the sport, signing with Matchroom and getting back to where it all started with my old coach, Mark Ferrate. I promise it'll be something big on June 24th.
Edgar seems to have changed trainers again. You know, for a while he was with Andre Rosier, Kay Karoma, then he parted ways with those guys, enlisted the aid of some other guy from Puerto Rico.
And he must have kicked that guy to the curb because now he's with his old trainer, Mark Ferrate. This is a golden opportunity for Edgar Berlanga to change the trajectory of his career, turn things around, and make people believe in him again. Opposite the ring, Jason Quigley.
He's just one highlight reel knockout away from making people believe again.
3 lackluster showings under the top-ranked banner. It all started with the Contreras fight, continued into the Steve Rolls fight, and the subsequent Romer and Gulio fight, which was his last fight under the top-ranked banner.
This will be his first under the Matchroom banner, and we'll see what he's got.
This summer, look for the ring return of Edgar Berlanga. Men's 136-pound news. Javonte Davis on Garcia's KO prediction. I think he's just trying to hype himself to get into the the fight.
There's a lot of wishful thinking, a lot of optimism in association with this weekend's mega match, quote-unquote mega match.
Ryan's promising a knockout. Javonte's expecting one. Javonte Davis does not rule out the possibility of scoring a stoppage win in the early rounds. Make sure you come early and get your popcorn or whatever you want to get, because this is going to be an early night for sure.
News broke yesterday of a live stream featuring both Javonte Davis and Ryan Garcia, where Ryan agreed to bet his entire purse.
I didn't waste a lot of time on that. I'm not about to here and now, because I think that's just hyperbole. I think that's just those two kids doing what they can during fight week to help sell this fight, because in terms of promotion, I can't say
I'm not getting the big fight feel.
Maybe that's because I'm not as invested as some others.
And in terms of promotion, I can't say that the handlers of this show pulled out all the stops, pulled out all the bells and whistles to help sell this fight.
I'm feeling great. Everything is about staying completely focused on the task, because I know I have a challenge in front of me April 22nd. Me and Coach Calvin have been doing this for so long. He's a major key to my success over the years. I'd be nowhere without him, so I always keep him close to me. Ryan is going to have to show.
He's going to have to show me that he has more than just the left hook.
I'm going to be on point that night, because I'm getting ready for the best, Ryan Garcia. I just don't feel that he's a complete fighter, and come April 22nd, I'm going to show him.
It's not that Ryan doesn't have some of the right ingredients for this fight. He does. He's a taller fighter than Javonte, a longer fighter. He's got speed of his own and power.
Because he's a taller and longer fighter, if he manages the distance, maybe he can get the shorter, stumpier fighter in Javonte Davis to lunge in.
Lean over his lead foot.
Leave his chin exposed so that Ryan Garcia can get off one of those razor-sharp left hooks.
Maybe.
Though Ryan Garcia's career having been so stop and start the last couple of years, it's hard to have that level of confidence in him. This win would mean a lot. Beating someone young, explosive, and in their prime says a lot. I feel like this fight is big for the sport. We're drawing in a lot of people, and a win on that night is really like winning a world title again, Davis said. This is going to be spectacular. It's going to be two young guys who are hungry.
Ryan especially, having to make 136, I bet that kid's starving.
I think he's trying to hype himself to get into the fight when he talks about knocking me out in 2 rounds. I don't think he really believes that.
Ryan's got to use his height, use his reach, and beat those feet. Maintain distance between himself and Javonte Davis, forcing Javonte to lunge.
Ryan's got to stay behind his jab. Careful not to step too far into it, ending up mid-range to inside with Javonte, which would favor Javonte.
The shorter, stumpier fighter who needs to get close to you before he can touch you.
Ryan properly uses his height, uses his reach, stays behind his jab, and keeps moving.
Keeps creating space between himself and Javonte. He could, at least in theory, walk him into a left hook if Javonte makes a mistake and hyperextends.
The caveat is that Ryan has to boil down to 136 pounds, and that may leave him weakened, something we won't know until the opening bell sounds.
His last 2 fights weren't at 135, they were at 140.
Ryan's several years younger than Javonte Davis. His body is still growing, whereas Javonte, he's got a smaller frame.
He's a garden gnome. He's a butterball.
Ryan Garcia might very well have some of the right ingredients for this assignment, but he doesn't have consistency, and that's very important.
At this level it is.
Consistency, discipline, regimentation, a regular schedule of fights that allows you to stay in a groove.
Ryan doesn't have that. So how much do you trust him?